Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call the City Council meeting of the City of Paris to order. It's 5:30 Monday, August 28th, 2017. Pastor Bob Seal will give our invocation, and Ms. Drake will give the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you pray with me? Most gracious and merciful Heavenly Father, Lord, we humbly come to you this evening, beseeching you, Lord, that you would give our council the wisdom and that they need, Lord, to make the decisions, Lord, that impact the lives of everyone in the city. We pray for all of our leaders, Lord, that you'll do the same for them, Lord, that they'll be able to make the right decisions, Lord, in governing those they serve. We pray, Lord, this evening for those people who are hurting on the Gulf Coast, Lord, that your hand will be upon them, those who are being evacuated and those who are going to be evacuated. We pray for their safety. But most of all, Lord, we pray for your peace and your comfort, and pray that everything that is said here tonight and everything done here will bring honor and glory to you. For it's in Christ's holy name that we pray. And all God's people said,
Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, next item is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes unless an item is posted on the agenda. The Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personnel appeals, are not appropriate for a Citizens Forum. The Citizens Forum is now open. Anyone wishing? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Janine Lauren, and I live at 1760 Northeast 34th Street. I believe that you should not pass this budget in any form, shape, or manner until it goes back to the drawing board. I say this in the packets that I've given you. It shows me running for mayor of Culver City in 1988. I served in Vision 2000 for the city of Los Angeles, Culver City, Las Vegas, and San Antonio. Thus, I can say with considerable experience that this is the worst budget I've ever seen. It's designed to hide and confuse. The number 2 item in there is my husband and I, with another partner, built Newport Beach Plaza in 1988, and this is where I get my money, and I did the interior design. Next is showing the highest paid city manager in the United States of America is Dallas, at $400,000. If I'm reading the budget right, we are going to pay $376,000, which is $24,000 less for a city that is 1/10 the size. If I'm reading the budget wrong, it is because it is not clear. Number 4 is a copy of the Texas City Management Association showing us paying currently $165,000 for the city manager. The Paris News, I've got to sit, I can't stand very long. The Paris News reported the hire as $196,000. The 2014 budget reported it as $360,000. This is fraud. Mr. Godwin came from Rolette, and their budget is exactly like Plano's. He knows what a good budget looks like and what it doesn't. Next is the police chief, Bob Hudley, telling us a rookie for a firefighter makes $27,000 more in Plano. I have taken Plano as an example of what we want despite the extreme differences. This is then illustrated by comparing the budget section for Parks and Recreation of both Paris and Plano. I used the 2013-14 budget for Paris because it was actually clearer, and we're spending more then that Plano is spending now. Next is the Plano's mayor's letter and the overview of the budget. I put those 35 pages in there Because if you could read that and understand that, then you know what you're doing. There's no way that you can read this budget and get the same thing out of it. The information is not there. Page 39 is the strategic vision of Plano and the community results. Simply stated, it means you have to plan your work and work your plan. There was a city suit against
Your
about
2
the-
minutes has been up a little while, but I was letting you speak a little bit longer. We can't.
Okay.
I'll let her, you can't do that, but I can let her speak for a few more seconds,
All right.
certainly.
The
And I'll be
city
happy
suit-
to.
The city suit was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. What the judge said is it wasn't a civil suit, it was a criminal suit. Fraud, the statute of limitation on fraud is 4 years. The city is still on the line. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, appreciate you council members being here, and thank you for everything y'all do. My name is Chad Bird. I'm a local guy who kind of just does whatever I can to help. We have, and personally, I've been all over this country supporting and promoting concerts for almost 20 years, anywhere from Dallas to Oklahoma City to Tyler. I mean, pretty much anywhere. You know, you can think of Christian music primarily. In the past, when I was a young man and I rented the Love Civic Center, you know, I was young, and so I was like, well, you know, we can always make it work. And I'm telling my friends, you know, yeah, we can make this work and blah, blah. What I mean by the way make it work is that the Civic Center is not very friendly, concert friendly. There's a lot of things that could be upgraded and or improved upon in order to host national artists as they come in. I'll give you for example, we're bringing in a national tour this September the 24th, which is Jason Crabb and Selah, widely popular bands, you know, well known. Coming into this community, we're able to pick the show off. I was able to pick it off and put it into Paris. There are a lot of things that national bands, when they come through an area or a town, there's like dressing rooms and, you know, shore power for buses and these kind of things, right? Our Civic Center doesn't really have these capabilities. And we have an okay green room, but as far as hosting people, it lacks a lot, you know. And I believe that this is something, concerts or something that is positive for the community. I also believe that it's positive for surrounding areas. If you'll go look at other areas like Sulphur Springs, what's crazy is people from Paris, you know, they all pile up and go to Sulphur Springs to go to their auditorium, versus when we say we're going to have something at the Civic Center, they're kind of like, well, you know, this is Paris. So, you know, in other words, if we could re-energize or reinvigorate the Civic Center to be more concert friendly, or possibly, you know, look at some things, maybe put a group together to think about maybe some redesigns of some rooms inside there, that would be great. That's all I got to say, and I thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patsy Karkov. I live at 315 York. I purchased my home in 2009. It was the only home in the neighborhood, first built in 1983. In the past several years, residents have moved in and have elevated their property and surround my home by bringing in additional soil and regrading their property to accommodate the flow of water from their homes and redirecting it into mine. I have lost many large trees and storage buildings due to the excessive water. It has been brought to my attention that the city permits and post inspections are required for these type of changes on the property. There are no public records of the permits being issued for the property changes due to the flooding concerns in my area. I have contacted the city manager a year ago with my concerns, and it was the city equipment that was being behind my house, adding additional soil and replacing the creek that my property once flowed into into a drainage swale. Yet the additional soil and grading prevents water from my property from reaching the drainage swale. There was a plan to place a drain on the open property behind mine that would allow the water to flow back into the swale. The plan was never completed by the city due to the property owner's lack of cooperation. As of the last week, my actual home is now in jeopardy of being flooded due to the water now rising from the street into my driveway and towards my front door. I was told this past week that the city had planned to help with the issue, but not a solution. And I am here tonight to ask for a solution because I need a solution in order to save my property and my home.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm here to speak on item 14. Can we defer until that item comes up?
Why don't we go ahead and present right now? How many people are you anticipating speaking? How many people are you anticipating speaking, or is it just you?
I only know of two myself.
Go ahead and speak, and I'll give you some.
I feel we've got several retirees here, so maybe better speak at that time.
Okay, we'll speak at that time. Anyone else? Seeing none, the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Almost.
I got thinking that I'm Skipper Steely, and I write histories of various buildings and functions around Paris. And I write these things for people that hire me, and then they hardly ever read them. A few other people might read them, but I end up with all this knowledge about what Paris has. And here's one on the banking, all the banking history in Paris. History of the First National Bank and all of its neat little history. But this is half of the history of the industrial history of Paris, half of it. And that doesn't include PEDC either, which I wasn't hired to do. But I wish that some way, and I know you got a lot to read, that you would find time to let me download the history of industry in Paris, and then you would see how we relied so many years on Texas Power and Light Company to guide us and bring industry to us up until 1984 when we got Kimberly-Clark. But a bunch of men started after World War II with $100,000, and they ran the show and went out on the road personally to each one of these places and got us B&W, Westinghouse, UARCO, and so forth. Then after they wore out in 10 years, the Chamber of Commerce Industrial Committee and the Paris Industrial Foundation put the onus on the back of Walter Bassano and Mr. Gibbs and Mr. McWhirter and Mr. Hyde and Mr. Snowden. And they ran it for a while until we voted to have a tax. And we actually, guys, we voted 2 taxes. It took us twice to do it, but we voted in 2 taxes. So we've got 2 1/4 cent taxes sitting there. I suggest that we keep PEDC. I can't imagine operating without some sort of centralized point for industrial recruitment, and that we get the culture Part B like 37 other towns in Texas have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? The citizens forum is now closed. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Anyone in the council have anything they want to pull off the consent agenda? No one? All right, I'll make a motion. We accept the consent agenda. Second. All in favor? Aye. Next is item 11, conduct a public hearing, discuss and act on a resolution authorizing the application for Justice Assistance Grant Program in the amount of $11,039 and authorizing an interlocal agreement with Lamar County. Mr. Hunley, you want to explain this to us?
This is a yearly grant that the Department of Justice provides for disparate type jurisdictions. It's been going down year to year to year, and this is the lowest that we've had. We split it 50-50 with the Lamar County Sheriff's Office. It's equipment purchase normally only. They're doing a little bit of radio equipment, and we're doing some laptop computers for our CID officers and administration.
And we just need to have a public hearing on this to make this legal and so that this split can take place, as I understand. So I'll open the public hearing. If anyone has anything to say in favor or opposed to this, please come forward.
I'm in favor.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. And we don't need to do an action on this, do we?
You approve the resolution.
Okay. I make a motion, we approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, item number 12, discuss and authorize naming the bridge near the Love Civic Center trailhead to the Earl Erickson Bridge and authorize placement of appropriate signage to identify donors. Who's going to discuss that? Mr. Godwin.
I'm going to introduce Mary Clark. Mary is from the Northeast Texas Trail Group, and she's going to make a brief presentation, and then we'll honor Earl.
It's already done?
Well, we've got to vote on it, but.
Yeah. My name is Mary Clark. I'm here with Pat Cochran to ask this council to name a bridge for Mr. Earl Erickson. The bridge is the one that connects the Civic Center to the Trail to Paris, which is a part of the Northeast Texas Trail. It is a lovely bridge. It is one that was obtained through a county commissioner. Of course, Earl was in the midst of getting that done. And it has made a lovely part of the trail there. If you've been there, it's got a deck with a seating area at the end of the bridge. And we have been wanting to do something for Earl. We know I will not go through all the things that he has done to make this trail possible because I could be here for a while. But we do know that it was his vision, his idea, his industriousness that has gotten us this far and will get us to the end. But we really felt it was time to honor him now. And this part of the trail is owned by the city of Paris. It's not technically a part of the Northeast Texas Trail, so it has to be approved by the city council. But we know how many hours he has put into this, how many city councils he's appeared before, county commissioners, state legislature, Texas Parks and Wildlife, how many countless owners he's had to talk to get this done. And so this would be a permanent recognition of it. Of course, we would like to see the whole Northeast Texas Trail named for him, but we don't have that power. And the reason we'd like to get it done now is twofold. One, he's 75 years old. And we need to do it. We need to tell him thank you. It's not done completely. The trail is not completed, but he has gotten us this far. And it's connected to the second thing that we're asking you to do. Just last year, we had a successful executive director's drive that raised money to hire an executive director. And the purpose of that director was to help Earl out. The project had gotten so big and covered such a huge territory that we needed a professional person there to do it. And so it is very connected to Earl's effort in getting the trail developed. I wanted to bring Jack Neal here today to introduce you to him because we have hired him to be the executive director, but Earl wants to introduce him to you, and I told Earl he couldn't come tonight. So, but he will be here probably the next time to introduce you to Jack, who is, I think, going to be a wonderful executive director. So I don't know if you were sent a picture of the plaque. I only have one copy of it. And we'll need
Yes, they were.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
And then, did you get a copy of the plaque itself?
Yes, yes.
Okay. In May, I was in the city of Chattanooga, which, by the way, is a lovely place to go. And they had a pedestrian bridge that used to be a railroad bridge. And they've redeveloped it. It's immensely popular. And what they did to thank people who helped in doing that bridge was that they had these plaques. And it has an outline of the bridge on it, and it has the name of the donor. And that would, of course, include the city of Paris, because you were very supportive of this executive director's drive. So we would like to would get plaques made of each of the major donors for that effort and put it on the bridge itself. And then what we're hoping, if that this is all approved today, is that we would unveil the naming of this bridge and the donor plaques on October the 12th. You, of course, will be invited, but we would like to make that a pretty nice event for Earl. Any questions?
Any questions?
Are you trying to keep this a secret from him?
Well, you know, that was the original plan, was to make it a secret.
Don't put it in the Paris News.
I know, but we realized it was not going to be possible to do that. So Pat and I actually met with Earl and his wife and told him. He was very touched. And they're already making plans, assuming this gets done, for their family to come in for that dedication.
You have the question? Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion
You
that
beat
we name the bridge after Earl Erickson for his dedication to the Trail de Paris and the Northeast
East
Texas
Texas Trail, yes.
Association. Yeah.
A
Second.
lot of seconds. Okay, all in favor? It passes, Mary.
Thank you. And we're okay with the plaques, right?
Yes. Thank you,
Okay,
Mary.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Item number 13, discuss and authorize renaming a portion of Center Street to Rita Haynes Boulevard. And
This is me too, kind of. And Rita, you're somewhere. I thought I saw you. If you'd come on up.
Yeah.
This is another person that's had an awful lot, that's contributed an awful lot into the community here over many years. Rita Jane has been out at the Red River Valley Fair for however long, I don't know. One of the first people I met when I came to town, she called me over and said she was going to tell me how things worked at the fair. And she sat me down, and we've been allies ever since. Her office is located on Center Street, West Center Street, or East Center Street, I'm sorry. Actually stops right there at her office. I suggested several months ago that it'd be a great idea to name that street after her. She deserves it. She's done a huge amount of things. It's not just the fairgrounds, not just some fun place to go, which is coming up really soon. But there's an educational component to that and so forth, so on, especially with youth. So she's an important person in the community. We want to honor her. She's got a number of her board members here, I see. So unless anybody has any other questions or any of you guys want to speak, I just recommend that you do this for her.
I'd like to make the motion that we do that.
I'll second it.
Thank you
I know how far that lady.
all in favor?
Aye.
very much. I greatly appreciate this.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Item number 14, discuss and possibly act on a COLA for City of Paris retirees. Why don't we start off with Mr. Shank and the retirees that want to speak, and then we'll let John speak and let the council members discuss it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And a big kudo for the recognition of Ms. Haynes. That's a great idea, whoever came up with that idea. Mayors and members of council, my name is Larry Shank, and I live at 3765 Dawn Drive in the city of Paris. I have tried to, left you a copy of my remarks tonight in case you want to refer to them. I want to thank you for placing the matter of the COLA adjustments for retirees on the agenda and for the opportunity to speak to you on that subject. The city manager was asked by the council the last meeting to look at the budget and see if funds are available to provide even the most modest COLA adjustment possible for retirees for the first time in 10 years. Frankly, I hope you are as disappointed with his response as I am for several reasons. Sadly, his response is primarily an attempt to justify why a COLA should not be given. He has left it to you to decide as you should, but he has provided you with very little help in doing so. First, we agree that TMRS is a fine system, but TMRS is not at fault for Paris failing to help its retirees, as almost all other TMRS cities have done, as we've shown you in an analysis of our last council meeting. Next, he points to the city's insurance assistance program for retirees short of the age of 65, a fine program which, however, by his own admission, this council or any other council could end at any moment, much as the same way as COLA was ended. The manager also seems fixated on the fact that you are not obligated to do anything for retirees, leaving the issue aside for others to address as to who was told what at the time the COLA was ended. I would only point out that your budget is full of items you do not have to do, such as funds to various nonprofits, funds for walking paths, and many other similar and worthwhile programs. Why a COLA deserves special scrutiny is a mystery to me. He also justifies no COLA on the basis that it could not help current employees or with recruiting. As to the actual financial impact on current employees, we agree that because of the way TMRS handles one-time COLAs, only those already retired will benefit. But we have made it clear that our whole effort has been directed at a COLA for long-term 30 to 40-year employees whose wages were so low while they worked that their pensions are also correspondingly low. But contrary to his assertion that a COLA will not help recruitment or presumably retention of employees, if the city again turns away these retirees, it should be abundantly clear to current and new hires how they can be expected to be treated in the future after they retire. I submit to you that not granting a COLA will speak volumes to current and potential employees. Remember that TMRS is a statewide system, and moving to another city with more compassion for retirees could have something to do with 100% turnover that he cited in his memo. Which brings us to his argument that what other cities do with regard to COLA, and we have shown you in the past that Paris on a statewide, regional, and local basis is at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to a COLA adjustment, is unimportant, that Paris should stand alone on this. The irony in this argument is that parallel with our presentment of the COLA issue, Council has debated the need and form of economic development for Paris's future. You have to compete worldwide or at least nationally to get new and to retain existing industries. We agree with that. It appears Paris is prepared to devote considerable resources to such endeavors, as it should, because that's what other cities do. But when it comes to its retirees, Paris can apparently pull up the drawbridge and become an island and not even complete with Clarksville or Honey Grove. We submit you can be one or the other, but not both. The manager indicated that since Ms. Rose's email in 2012, COLA adjustments have been considered every budget year during his tenure. Sadly, as far as I know, there's been no evidence that any of the retirees were ever notified that it was under consideration during that time frame. I have also been unable to find any indication that a review of this item was presented to council before last year, before 2016, when we brought it forward. The operative point here, however, is he points out that a COLA would be a continuing expense for the lifetime of the retirees. That is true. The operative point here is the phrase for the lifetime of the retirees. And Tommy will touch on that point, but I presented you also with an email from TMRS where they responded that the actual cost should not be the full amount from year to year, simply for that reason and others. Which brings us to the most important point of all. The manager emphasizes the budget is already balanced, like that is an impediment to you, the elected official, to changing it. I would submit that being able to change it is your most important function, and you have that duty as my elected representative. Since the manager has placed the issue of where to make adjustments back in your laps, let me illustrate what I hope the manager would do. In his list of selected items, all priced at even numbers, as is customary in budget, are included replacement vehicles of various types. How many of you have ever bought a vehicle for an even number? I certainly have not, and I bought too many cars in my lifetime. Couldn't this amount be adjusted to a more realistic real figure, perhaps shaving some to go toward a COLA? What about all the other items of a similar ilk in the budget? I would also point out that the current budget, general fund and utility, totals $38 million. In addition, I hope you are all aware that the city has a cash reserve on the order of $13 to $14 million, an amount based on a 2013 policy that perhaps should be reviewed again. That means there is over $50 million on the table, and the manager would have you accept that the budget cannot be balanced by providing a COLA for retirees. And I would only ask that the retirees in the room stand so they can be recognized, please. Please stand if you're here. Thank you. And thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you.
Have a joyous evening.
Thank you. Well, anyone else wish to speak about the COLAs?
I think Tommy wants to.
Yes.
Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Tommy Haynes, and I'm a retiree of the City of Paris, and I live at 3095 Abbott here in Paris. I'd like to thank the members of the council who voted for the COLA process to continue at the last meeting. The City of Paris has been receiving their COLA each year for the reevaluated property taxes at the same tax rate and sales tax increases as the price of sellable items increases. Since 2008, the city has failed to share it with their retirees who receive no COLA increases. Our COLA system hasn't been maintained. You have stated in the $196,000 COLA amount, if it's approved, that the amount would be in the budget each year in the future. As retirees, we're senior citizens, and we're not going to live forever. Shouldn't the $196,000 figure come down as we have deaths occur among us? I believe Larry Shank passed out a email to all of you from TMRS about that particular item, that it will not be the full amount that was told to us. I have another question. How much will the fund balance be at the end of September 2017? You should have a pretty good idea with 11 months being up this week. Couldn't some of the overrun that there will be used to fund the COLA? The cash reserves that the City Council adopted in 2013 were in the $13 to $14 million range. This is a different council, so couldn't some of this money be used to pay for the COLA by passing a new ordinance amount? You have mentioned in the past that from council to council that changes could and have been made, such as stopping the COLA after 2008. The amount that we're asking for is less than 1/2% of the proposed budget. This doesn't include the cash reserves that could possibly be used. Surely this small amount could be found with all of the options that you presented and what we've said tonight. If this COLA is not approved this year, we feel that it will never be passed as the increase in the amount will be too great. The cost last year, it was given to us of $146,000. This is for the minimum amount that we could have gotten, and it's increased to $196,000 in 1 year if these numbers are accurate. That's $50,000 more in 1 year, and that's 34% increase. So if it doesn't pass this year, it'll be $250,000 plus or $300,000. And if you don't approve $196,000, how would you approve more than that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, I'm Charles Whitley. I live at 725 Southeast 38th Street in Paris, Texas. That's been my home for the past 40 years. I'm a retiree from the Paris Police Department. Enjoyed the tenure while I worked for them. The city had been very good to me. When I retired, we were getting a small pay increase on our retirement for the first few years, and I guess we became somewhat dependent upon that. So that's why we're here tonight, to ask you to reinstate COLA. I understand that there was a motion made the last time we met here, and you directed the city manager to look at and see if he could find, and I don't know that these are the direct words, I don't hear all that well, but ask the city manager to look at the budget and see if he could find money, some money, to fund COLA. I'm disappointed in the wording of that directive to the manager. What you should have said, what I wish you had said, and it would have carried much more weight if you had told the city manager, instead of go look, go find the money. It's already been stated here that there's $13–14 million laying around. So I don't see that what little we would benefit from is going to really break the bank. But anyway, I do appreciate you allowing us to be here and visit with you on this very night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Janine Lauren. When I listened last time the council met, and I saw the amount of money being quoted for things just off the wall, and I went and looked at the budget. So if we reduce the city manager's salary by $200,000, he'd still have $11,000 more than's being reported to the Texas City Management Association. So the money, there's lots of money in this budget that's just, and I'm going to be dropping a bomb on you every single council meeting. I've spent $300 to $400 printing out the stuff and comparing it, and I don't have the time, this week. But every week you're going to get a bomb because I already know some really terrible things from seeing this budget.
Thank you.
How are you? I'm Connie Stouter. I live at 2550 Meadow Lane. And John, I'm not going to fuss at you.
Thank you. And I also don't make over $300,000 a year, in case anybody was wondering.
Okay. What I wanted to do is to address the council and to tell you I appreciate you allowing us to come forward. I appreciate your consideration of a COLA. Us retirees, we have no leverage. Yes, we can go to the poll and vote. I can't even vote for you because I don't even live in the city of Paris. But I hope that I can appeal to you that there is a need for a COLA increase to the retirees. They haven't had one in 10 years. I haven't been retired 10 years, but I hope I am at some point. And I would like to appeal to your sense of fairness to those people that have retired. Probably most of them are not working another job. Perhaps they're on Social Security also, and they may have gotten a small increase. However, I can tell you, we don't get much on Social Security anymore either. But people's medicine keeps going up, their utilities keep going up, and there's a need for this COLA. It doesn't seem like very much, won't be very much in my little salary, but it will mean a lot to some of the people who have retired years ago. And I think it would go a long way to let them know you appreciate what they have done for the community and for the city of Paris. You are the ones who will have to make the decision. I know how the budgeting process goes. I've made budgets many, many times. You always overestimate your expenses. You always underestimate your revenues. That's how you can come out with a good fund balance at the end of the year. And just like Mr. Haynes said, I hope you'll realize there's a little wiggle room in there, and I hope that you will be able to approve this COLA for the retirees.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Well, let's move on with this item. John, I'll let you have any comments on this.
Just a few, and I guess human-wise, I'd love to respond to Larry's comments, but I won't because I'm not sure it's productive to go through all of those. I will say again that the city manager doesn't make $300 and something thousand a year in Paris, and never has, never will. That number is probably the entire office, which includes other personnel besides me, plus expenses and so forth. A few things, and to the council, not to the folks that are unhappy with me, but and I get that, and I understand that, and I respect that. This is, again, as I said last time, I think I said in my memo, this is not a bad expense at all, in my opinion. But when you put together a budget, you make choices. And I really am telling the truth, Larry, and you've known me since we worked in Longview 30 years ago. I'm telling the truth. I always told you the truth back then. I'm telling you the truth now when I say it's something I've looked at every year. I really have. I'm not making that up. I have no reason to make that up. But you look at those things, and so in response to you, whether this was a good response to you or not, I did it on purpose this way because these are the things that we as a staff go through. And we say, well, we've got to have this, we've got to have this. We've got $2 million worth of stuff that we'd like to fund. We've got an extra couple $100,000 we're going to fund. For example, there's two ways you can cut a budget. And let's say your instruction was, go cut $196,000 at your job, go find it. And I would. There's two ways to do that. One is you cut real stuff. For example, and this is something that councils in other cities are often tempted to do, and councils here have been tempted to do this and know to have done it before. You say, well, okay, don't buy that ambulance and don't fix the swimming pool. Well, we can wait another year, but that means next year you need to buy 2 ambulances, and it means in the money that we were going to use that we budget this year to fix the pool pump and the motors, we were going to use that money next year to start resurfacing the pool. So that means we don't do either one of those. And next year we got 2 ambulances and we got no pool repairs down the budget. We can't afford 2 ambulances because we've got the extra $196,000 we're spending on, or some number, spending on the retirees' raises. And so there's that running effect. It's easy to say, well, let's cut out a car here and cut out a car here, but that always carries forward. That's one of the things, especially you council members that have been here for a long time, that's one of the things that Paris got in trouble by doing. They got behind on their budget. They got behind on capital replacement. And we got ourselves into this horrible, huge hole. Not just on water and sewer and streets, we got in this horrible hole on police cars and fire trucks that were 20 and 30 years old. We had fire trucks that were parked when there was a fire because we had to tow them because they kept deferring those things and deferring those things and deferring those things. So we've gotten to where we don't do that, and we're trying to budget smarter and smarter, and the council's been very, very supportive of that the last few years. And a lot of us very much appreciate that. The other way you can cut a budget besides just picking out big capital things you can defer is kind of like Larry's saying. I can take $5 off of every line item and it'll add up to $196,000. The problem with that is, and the reason you don't try to come up with an exact number for a police car of $60,019.44 is because, A, you don't know what it's going to cost till you buy it, till you get it off a state contract. But if you have an electricity budget of $40,000 and the bills come in at $42,000, you spend $42,000. You can't say at September the 2nd, we're out of electricity money, just turn all the street lights off until October 1st. It doesn't work that way. We're going to spend what we're going to spend. One of the things the city has done historically too that we've not talked about a lot publicly is they have played games. I was a budget guy for many, many years before I was a city manager. People have played games. The first year I was here, I was horrified. We would be $200,000 over budget in electricity at the sewer plant, the water plant. Why is that? Well, we just cut that arbitrarily. We know we're going to spend way over that amount of money, but we did that to pay for stuff. We did that to pay for stuff. That's not good budgeting. That's not sound budgeting, and I'll never recommend it. I'll go along with it if you tell me to by a vote of 4-3 or 5-2 or 6-1 or 7-0, but I'm not going to ever recommend let's play games with the budget. Let's hide money. Let's cut not real stuff because it's poor budgeting. Another way you can pay for things is out of reserves. We have a large amount in our reserves, both in the general fund and the utilities fund, which is where all of the personnel are located, except for we have a few personnel in the landfill fund now.
All those reserves are not discretionary funds. A lot of those reserves are there for specific reasons. They may be customer deposits, they may be reserves you have to have for bonds and so forth and so on. So it's not all just spendable money. But sure enough, there's enough money in there. If you wanted to take money out of reserves to pay for this, you absolutely could. I would not recommend it because you just don't want to spend recurring operating cost out of reserves. Reserves are more the one-time thing. You know, the 2 times the city council's taken a good bit of money out of reserves since I've been here anyway. $1.8 million was taken out for the drainage work. That's a one-time, hit it hard, and we did. It'd be great if we had a whole lot more money, but that was a one-time thing. It's not every year $1.8 million. We'd go broke real fast. The other time was we had the big ice storm in 2013. We spent about $1.1 million that year. Took that money out of reserves. Well, we only had the one ice storm. Hopefully we won't have another one for another 50 years. So reserves, yes, you can take money out of reserves and pay for it. I don't recommend it. Yes, you can take $5 every line item if you want to, or we could take, we can cut Doug Harris's electricity budget by $196,000. But Doug's still going to spend electricity at the water plant and the sewer plant and all the lift stations. So that's not a real cut. We can also cut an ambulance in the swimming pool, or we can cut half of the police cars. But just remember, all that stuff is still out there. There's still a cost to those things, even if it doesn't show up in your budget. So we can do those things, and we'll make them work, and I'll support you. And I'm not trying to put you in a bad spot, and I'm not going to try to argue with you. If that's what y'all decide to do, that's what we'll do, and we will make it work. But it's just not as simple and as easy and game playing. Budget's not a game. Budget's really serious. This is the marketplace for the city. It's one of the most important decisions you make is to approve or not approve a budget, because it determines the priorities we have for the rest of the year. A couple of things too. I guess for whatever reason, I guess it's a kind of a normal argument tactic to personalize things, and so I'm the guy that's the devil that has to be opposed or something. But the thing is too with these retirees, they're not all created equal, so to speak, and by that I mean, as I said, I think in the memo or to you guys maybe at the last meeting, my initial deal when we were talking about some folks that had retired quite a ways back, I was in favor of it too. We found out how much it was going to cost, and things happened. It didn't happen at that point, and it's getting bigger and bigger now. It makes it more difficult. But the thing is, we're not just talking about people who left, who were retired before they got discontinued in 2004, 2008, whatever it was. We're talking about everybody that's retired since then too. And as an example, and I don't want to pick on anybody because they're all good guys. We've had 4 people retire in the last few months to go to other full-time jobs as police officers working for other people. So that means you're talking about giving those people, and they're not within the timeline. But everybody that retires isn't 65 or 75 or whatever age they are, and they're not all old like Larry. I'll pick on Larry. So people leave the city for a lot of different reasons. You can retire after 20 years. You can retire at 40. I don't think those people should be getting raises from us when they retire at 40. The rest of their lives, or even every now and then. I'd love to give just that one group of people raises, but we're not allowed to do that, and that's what we found out back in 2012, 2013. We can't just say, well, these people are in a special class. Like the gentleman said, we kind of got used to it and depended on it. You'd like to help them. I would like to help them out, but I just can't put them all in the same category. A whole lot of people have retired since then. Final thing I'm going to say, too, is as far as recruiting, I've interviewed and recruited hundreds of people in 31 years. Nobody has ever said, when I retire, am I going to get a raise? So I just simply do not accept that people are not going to come work for us because they're not going to be able to retire here and get raises. I don't think a single firefighter left the city of Paris to go work for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more. But the real reason was because they thought maybe Plano would give them a raise when they got there after they retired, because it's the same retirement system. I just don't accept that, and I hope you understand that that's just not the case, and that's just an extra argument. Beyond all of that, you guys tell me what you want to do, and if you want me to go back and pick something for you, I'm capable of doing that, and I will do that, and I will support that. I will not recommend it, however. The significance to the fact that I have said more than once is this is a balanced budget. It means the revenues and the expenditures are equal, or very close there too. It means that if we change one side of the equation, you have to change the other. We're not going to increase revenues, so that means you've got to cut the expenditures to spend more money. So I stand to do whatever you want to do, and again, I understand where they're coming from. I respect their opinions. If I were them, I'd be up here asking for it too. But unfortunately, it's my job to recommend that you not do it.
Thank you, Ms. Godwin. Yeah, I appreciate the retirees coming to the council meeting and expressing their concerns and their desire for a cost of living adjustment. If the city had unlimited resources, I would happily would grant all of these requests. But unfortunately, the city of Paris, like all cities, must make decisions based on limited funds in order to do the most good for the most people in the city. This minimum COLA is going to cost us $200,000 this year and each year in the foreseeable future. We have significant expenses regarding flood control, and prevention that affects a large number of our citizens. There are also significant expenses in maintaining basic services, police, fire, EMS. As much as I would like to grant this COLA to the retirees, I don't believe, and I have to make the hard decision, I do not believe this expenditure of limited city resources is in the best interest of the majority of the people of Paris. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about this?
I have a question that I think Mr. Haynes brought up. Do we know about how much money we're going to have left in September from last year?
I don't off the top of my head. If you're talking about total amount of money in the bank, we'll have those several $1 million in reserves.
Yeah. Tommy, can you clarify what you were saying a while ago about in September we should know how much is left that could be used?
Well, what I was saying is that we're finishing up the 11th month of a 12-month year this week. And we should know at this point what our cash balance will be at the end of September or awfully close to that. And that is one area in which we could get some money to help fund the COLA that we haven't gotten for 10 years. As I mentioned earlier, we receive extra revenue yearly for sales tax increases. When somebody buys something that's cost a lot more this year than it did last year, we get a better tax on it. Same thing as far as people's taxes, property taxes, whatever their taxes may be. So there's $50 million out there in the two budgets. The manager gave a list of options to you all. He added some things to it from his original July letter to the council, and we just feel like that there is enough in there for this. And we feel like that we've been left out for a 10-year period of time, which you go back and look, as Larry did, we are at the bottom of the barrel. When Honey Grove, Clarksville, Mount Pleasant, Pittsburgh, Dangerfield, you name it, all those cities have been able to give a COLA increase since we have. It's pretty embarrassing. There's only 9 cities in the state of Texas, 20,000 population or more, that did not give a COLA increase since we have. 6 of the 9 are in the Rio Grande Valley, so their economic situation we understand. But Paris and 2 other cities, and I don't know who they are, have not given that. The other 113 have. Now, I can't help but believe with the kind of money that we have, the economic situation. Do you know how many people come to Paris every day? Do any of y'all know that? There's 50,000 people come to Paris every day. Many from Oklahoma, many from other counties around here. Paris is a regional hub. They spend a lot of money here.
Okay, thank you. Any other council members have anything to add to the discussion?
Can I ask John something? John, do you know of any companies that give these to their retirees? I'm talking about companies like Casey's, Campbell Soup, and those like that.
I don't know, but I'm not in a position to know either way, so that doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it may be common, but I just simply don't know.
I just wondered.
Yeah.
John, could Mr. Anderson address the question of if there's any overrun on the budget, just have a month left, are we in the red or are we in the black?
Yeah, I'm assuming we're in the black. You'll actually have, on an annual basis in September, Gene prepares a budget amendment for you when we move some things around a little bit, when we have specific line items that may be way over budget or way under budget. So that'll be coming to you probably on September 11th. We usually do that the first regular meeting of September. But that's, again, not just extra money. That's how you have reserves. That's where your reserves come from. Obviously, as the gentleman was saying, you try to spend less than you bring in, but that's how you have reserves. So if we want to spend that money, again, we can, but that's your reserve. So it's the same bad budgeting recommendation goes against that goes against reserves, because it's the same money.
Thank you. I've really wanted to help our retirees. My husband is retired through TMRS, and he's too young to take Social Security. He does not get anything toward his insurance. So while I'm very sympathetic, I just don't see where we take something else that's in the budget right now out. I wish we could. I'm a retired teacher. I retired in 2001. I have had no increase. One year, I believe it was 2008, we got a 13th check, and that's been it. And my insurance is getting ready to double. The state of Texas is not doing much for us. So, and I'm working part-time, and I know it's tough.
All right, anyone else on the council have any comments or discussion?
I'm in the same situation that you're in, only I've been 24 years.
Well, go ahead.
I actually had made up my mind sort of before I got here, and I've changed my mind. This has been a very, very, very difficult situation, because 99% of these retirees I know personally, I've known my whole life. My dad was a retiree, my brother's a retiree, I was a city employee, my husband was a city employee. And a lot of y'all live in my district. And I thought, sort of like the mayor had said, I'm going to be retired from the state soon. Should have done it this year, I didn't do it, because of insurance. And that retired teacher that will never get a raise, probably. And I was ready to say, we need to spend the money other places. I'm probably the lone wolf out here, but I would like to see a raise given to our retirees. That's all I have to say.
Any other comments? Well, I'll make a motion that we not include the COLA in this year's budget.
I'll second it.
All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Opposed? Okay. Item number 15, discuss and act on an ordinance amending Chapter 29, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Property of the Code of Ordinances, City of Paris, Texas, to add Article 6 to Chapter 29 regarding wireless facilities in the public right-of-way, making other findings and provisions related to the subject, providing a repealer clause, a savings clause, a severability clause, a penalty clause, and providing an effective date. And I'll turn this over to Ms. Harris here. She's going to discuss why this is necessary.
Well, you're all still awake, so I'm going to suggest that perhaps you didn't make it all the way through the ordinance. I know this is a bulky ordinance. The state law that's going into effect September 1 provides that these small cell providers we cannot restrict their access to the right-of-way, and we can't charge franchise fees. They don't have to negotiate a franchise agreement with us. I put some photographs in your packet to show you what that could look like if there's no regulation whatsoever. This statute gives us very little authority to regulate that, but this ordinance that I've put in your packet is compliant with the statute and does what we can do to help keep from having something that looks like one of those pictures, say, in the historic district, or, 50 of them on one structure. So that's what this is about. It needs to be passed before that state law goes into effect 9/1. We may get some pushback from some of the providers, AT&T, for example, but we can amend this at a later date if we need to. This was prepared by a law firm out of Washington, D.C. and Houston that's doing this for a lot of Texas cities. They have a national reputation helping cities with telecommunications issues, and they are comfortable, and I'm comfortable, that this is compliant with the new Chapter 254 of the Local Government Code.
That sounds good. Anybody on the council want to discuss this or have a comment?
Well, these pictures are awful.
Yeah.
This
I know
is
it.
to keep.
To prevent that. It's to get
that
some
from
ordinances in
happening.
place so
Okay.
that won't be
Things
okay.
We won't be seeing that.
And the statute and the ordinance do provide for some fees. They're not great, but, the risk of not passing this is that somebody goes and puts a whole lot of these up on September 1 and doesn't pay us anything. So we want to have this in place come September 1.
And I guess the other part of that would be enforcing the fact that, a lot of things happen in Paris where people ask for forgiveness as opposed to permission. So we really need to enforce this as well, so that.
And there are enforcement provisions within the ordinance.
Good.
Anything else? I'll make a motion, we accept, what's the words we need to use? We adopt this ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Item 16, consider and possibly approve appointment by City Council of contract prosecutor pursuant to City of Paris, Texas Charter, Section 28, and this is Ms. Harris's item as well.
Thank you, Mayor. I told you at the end of last meeting, I believe, that my prosecutor, Mr. Ressler, had resigned effective the end of this month. I didn't think I was going to have somebody willing to take the job so soon, but Chris Fitzgerald, a local attorney who has 14 years' experience practicing law, has agreed to do that for me. The agreement we've reached is within the amounts that we've budgeted, and please let me hire him.
Anyone have any questions about this?
Well, the only question I had was, do you not have to advertise the position?
It's
or-
professional services. We
And
don't
we
have to
don't
do
have
that.
to do that? That doesn't
Correct.
fall under that? Oh, okay, great, no problem.
Will he be keeping his law practice open?
Yes,
And
this is an average, it's not even 10 hours a week. It's like an average of 30 hours a month. He'd be responsible solely for prosecution in the municipal court.
Good.
I make a motion that we give you the authority to hire him.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Item number 17, discuss an economic development program and provide direction to staff. And I'd ask John, Mr. Godwin, to show the structure of the economic development program, assuming this were to pass the ballot initiative in November. And he's going to present to us, I assume, the structure of what this would be.
Yes, sir. Of course, again, back 2 meetings ago, when you guys passed the final motion to call the election, one of the things that your council talked about was the fact that this was not an expectation that there would be no economic development function at all, but that it would be funded through the general fund revenues of the city. And so rather than waiting until the election results, we don't know how that election is going to turn out in November, but rather than just let's see how it turns out, I think it's always prudent to have a plan in advance so that you're ready to go when the time comes. Also, in this case, you're having an election between basically the Paris Economic Development Corporation, which is in existence now and has been for a number of years, and something different. And I think voters need to know what that something different is, rather than speculating or debating, but make it very specific. And so at some point, I'll recommend to the council that you adopt something. This is just for a discussion item tonight, in whatever direction you have for me to change it or get rid of it or start all over or whatever the case may be. The first section of that is just the kind of the money part of it, remembering that EDCs and CDCs in Texas cannot be eliminated just the day after the election. It's not an automatic, instantaneous thing. There are liabilities, debts that are owed, and so the tax has to continue to be collected until you get those paid off, or until you've got enough money in reserves to pay those off. And so there's just some math there. This was as of about 2 or 3 weeks ago that we did this little exercise on the money, and that is kind of how much you normally bring in, how much you owe, and then how much is in reserves. And so some reasonable period of time, depending on if the election chooses to substitute the Type A sales tax for with a road maintenance tax, it could be anywhere from 6 months to as much as 2 years before the actual Economic Development Corporation is eliminated. Specifically, we talked about how to pay for that logically, because we budget this year $600,000 for road materials. That includes asphalt, concrete, and rock, and dirt, and so forth. If there was, in fact, a road maintenance tax, which would be about $1.4 million based on current sales taxes, could go up or down, of course, we would eliminate that $600,000 from the general fund and convert that $600,000 to economic development purposes. In this case, I would certainly recommend, if that happens, and a lot of ifs in here, if that happens, that you create a separate fund so that there's a specific economic development fund. That way, any monies that are not spent in any single year on operating costs or maintenance costs or grants or whatever it is, stays for the economic development purpose. So, for example, if you budget $600,000 one year and you only spend $380,000, that $220,000 doesn't just go back into the general fund reserves or the utilities fund reserves or some other place. It doesn't get used for a new fire truck the next year. It would stay for economic development purposes. And that'd be especially important, I think, because, of course, right now, with or without a 4A or 4B tax, city councils have the authority to approve tax abatements, but you generally don't have money for grants, and grants can be very important to certain businesses, especially new businesses trying to get started. You give them grants, sometimes in exchange for numbers of personnel they bring in, and so you're going to want to have some money for that purpose, and that's a way to build up that. Talked about building up reserves a while ago, building up reserves for a specific purpose, not just to have money in the bank, but to have it for a particular purpose. Either way, I would recommend that you have it in a separate fund so that you know that the money that's set aside for economic development is going to always be set aside for economic development. Also, at some point, I think you need to make a decision about operations. Let's just say again, these are all predicated on the election going a certain way. If it doesn't go a certain way, then we don't need to worry about any of this. But if in fact the voters decide to make the change in November, if the change doesn't happen for 2 more years, the sales tax still collected, you still have those debts to pay off, you could at that point, at the very end of that timeline, or you could do it the day after the election, change the operations. Having a Type A tax or a Type B tax, either one, you're required to have a board. State law requires you to have a board. It doesn't require you to have a staff. So if you knew that staff was going to transition from working for the board to working for the city, you could do that at the beginning, at the middle, at the end. I would think you'd probably want to transition it somewhere in the middle, having really not thought through a whole lot. Of course, that's somewhat in my mind, at least. I'd sure like to see the same staff stick around, because from what I know, they're really good at what they do, and so they would at some point change bosses. And so that's something I think sometimes as you guys talk about this more tonight or in other meetings, decide when's the best time to do that transition. I think you want to kind of come up with at least some general idea, some parameters before the election, again, so people know what to expect. I think it's important that you say, unless you don't want to, that if the election goes a certain way on Monday, you're not going to direct the board to fire everybody down there. That'd be silly, and I assume you wouldn't even consider that, but you need to say some of those kinds of things because, during elections, people really want to win sometimes, and you'll get vilified when people don't agree with you sometimes. Then the next group on there, the road maintenance tax, just to clarify some things on that, because I've heard a couple of things that are not quite right. The road maintenance tax is not the same thing as a bond money that was recently approved by voters. The bond money that was approved by voters recently is for capital outlay. That is like you go out and buy a new ambulance. Road maintenance tax means you're filling potholes, you're resurfacing some existing streets, you're not rebuilding them. That's your ambulance needs a new engine, so you put a new engine in it. It's not the same thing at all. The biggest thing that the difference between how far you can go, whether it's capital outlay or maintenance expenses, is imagine bonds. The debt service on those is usually 20 years long, and the debt service that we issued, we got the money in the bank just last Wednesday. We'll be paying for that for 20 years. That means you want to spend it on stuff that's going to last 20 years. You don't want to go take out a loan on something that's going to take, and that's what bonds are. That's the way cities borrow money. You don't want to take a loan out on something that's going to last you 5 or 6 years. And so a lot of the things that are going to be happening with road maintenance, that's stuff that's designed to last 5 years or 6 years or 8 years or 9 years. So they are not the same thing. So if you have folks ask you, well, gee, isn't that the same thing as the road maintenance tax? Isn't that the same thing as the bonds? The answer is no. And if I didn't make any sense with that, ask me again, and I'll try to make it more clear, or clearer. But it's not the same thing at all. As far as do we have enough road projects? This is the other question I've had a couple times to justify road maintenance tax. We did a study in 2013. Had an engineer do a study. At that time, they came up with $138 million worth of road repairs and maintenance that needed to be done. That would last a couple hundred years at this rate. In our CIP right now, we have a much smaller number. We have $38.5 million in there. So if you spend $1.4 million on those every year, that's still going to take you 27.4 years to knock that out. So there's plenty of need. And if you don't have the numbers right around Paris a little while, and you realize we need to work on our streets, because that's, again, one of those things that got deferred for a long time. Finally, I would recommend to you, whether you agree or not, that you should have an advisory board. Without the PEDC, you're not going to have a board that's required by state law, but having an advisory board is still a really good idea. You need to get local experts, local business people, local people that are not business people, that just have good common sense. You have a lot of boards and commissions in the city already. They provide a lot of valuable input. They're super important to the city and to the future of the city and the operations of the city. Economic development is super important to the operations of the city and the future of the city. You should have an advisory board. They would not have the authority that the EDC does. They wouldn't supervise employees. They wouldn't have budgetary authority, just like none of your other boards and commissions do. And I even drafted a pretty rough draft, but not all that rough, I guess. I told the mayor the other day, he asked me where I got that, and I said, well, I stole it from myself because I wrote that in another city, changed it around a little bit, and there's a lot of stuff in there that could go either way. Like, for example, and I don't have any strong opinion on this, it's just something to think about, that's why I put it in there. Some cities, the last place I worked, in fact, we had an EDC and a CDC. Our CDC had 7 members, and 2 of them were required to be council members, just because they felt like that was such an important board. They wanted to have council members on there. They had abbreviated terms, just 1 year versus 2 years or 3 years, but they like to have council input in there. Our EDC did not have council members, so that's just something to consider one way or another. We think that's a good idea or not. What kind of length of terms you want to have, and so forth and so on. But again, I think having an advisory board is really important. I hope all of y'all agree that having an economic development function, and I think in a city our size, an economic development staff, whatever that turns out to be, whether it's 1 person or 3 people, or if it's Michael or whomever, that we need to have those kinds of things in place. And this is just kind of part of, no matter what we do, we want to have something going forward. So that's all I got.
Thank you for the information. Yeah, I appreciate you getting this together for us. It's kind of coming together, and I like a lot of what I see here. Is there any discussion on the council regarding this? Raise your hand if you want to talk about it.
John, let's look down the road, say 3 years, and there's maybe a whole new council. This is an annual budget item. What if the new council decides they only want to put $300,000 in, or 0?
Yeah, that's always the option of the council. They're not required to spend that money. Councils can change their minds. They can take money out of there and spend it in the fire department or vice versa. Councils, of course, can go the opposite and spend more money on economic development. But yeah, all you can do is obviously commit to your budget 1 year at a time.
Any other questions? Any discussion on it? I was noticing the PEDC has a net worth of $4.2 million, but they've obligated $6.2 million, and that's the reason why it'll take almost 2 years for us to satisfy all their obligations. Although I think one of them is a loan guarantee that when that expires, we would have actually that much money in the bank, right? That would immediately be transferred into.
Correct, and it's being paid off a little bit, so it'll come down a little bit, although it's
It'll keep
got
going down a little
bubble
bit.
at the end.
Yeah, so we could very well have quite a bit of money for economic development at the expiration of that.
Correct, hopefully.
Anyone else have any comments about this?
I think you worked hard to
Yeah.
get this together for us, and I appreciate the work. There's a lot of good things in here, and probably some things that we might want to look at when we really start digging into it deeper. But I think this gives us a start. That I agree that we have to have something ready to go if the citizens decide this is the way they want to go, and I appreciate it.
Right. Well, no other that was just a discussion item, so no more discussion on it. We'll move on to the next item. Item number 18, discuss and act on the fiscal year 2017-18 budgets for Love Civic Center and the Visitors and Convention Council.
Mayor and Council, over the last couple of weeks, we appreciate you guys looking at our budgets. We ask that you send in any questions that you might have. We got some response back, and you have received those responses, and based on those responses, I haven't received any other questions. So in the essence of time, we'd ask for you to approve the budgets of the Visitors and Convention Council and the Love Civic Center, unless there are other questions.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
Yes, and thank you so much, Mr. Higdon, for your work. I spent the weekend going over these and kind of matching stuff up, and you've had quite a busy couple of months, haven't you?
Very busy.
And I don't think that this budget process fits in well with what you guys have been doing the last couple of months. I think you've just been really, really busy. I noticed a lot of gaps in the budget, and I just think that at this point in time, I think it needs to be tabled further for a little more work on it. I wanted to see every single line item, an explanation for every line item, and I didn't get that. And there was a point that was made by the city manager with regard to golly, I can't remember what it was now. It was something we talked about earlier, but it was that budgets are a good planning tool.
Exactly.
Not only for us to supervise and for the public to see what the money, tax dollars are being spent on, but it's also a very valuable tool for your councils to use and to follow. And I just think that it just needs a little more work, and perhaps with a little more time, since things have calmed down a little bit, that you might be able to spend some time in those areas.
Well, in regards to that, we do not take this budget lightly. We have put a lot of time and effort, not only myself, but our board as well. We have provided that information. I'm sorry you didn't receive the line items, but we actually sent that to the city manager.
I got it this afternoon at 3 o'clock, and it's about 100 pages. And no, I've not had a chance to even
It is not
look
a small document.
No, I know,
agree.
but certainly I got it and I'm the only one that's even received it because I'm the only one that requested that specific of information. So no, none of the other council, to my knowledge, has gotten
that regard, we do this budget in the April-May timeframe. So we have had a lot of more success, but as it was stated earlier, and I forget, one of the retirees actually said it, we do overestimate expenses and underestimate budgets, revenues, and we have literally had a godsend at the Love Civic Center this year. We are booked every Sunday because we have a church that is using the facility every Sunday that we don't have an event. And so that will be going away soon. And so there, you'll see some difference why I did certain things. And that's why we asked for those questions.
Sure.
But
Now,
based on that, I think it's a good budget.
Oh, I
It's-
do.
It's
I agree.
consistent with what we've done in the past.
but I still have some specific questions.
And I'll be
such as-
glad to meet with you on that.
Exactly. And what I did was I printed off, I went back in the city's files and I printed off a past budget that was presented with the budget notes showing line item explanations. And as you can see from it, it's not in depth. It just gives a nice explanation because it is a little, it's pretty confusing when we're talking about communications and landlines and cell phones, and one is from this line and one is from that line, and I don't know. I just printed this off for you, perhaps as a tool, and I would like for you to consider it.
Okay.
And that's why I made the motion to table this just a little longer, please. And I'll be happy to work with you too, after, you know.
Well, it's up to the discretion of the council. We're ready to move forward.
Mhm.
We have expenses that we're looking at and planning on, and some of those are in this new budget that we need to do pretty quickly. As you can imagine, as we space out funds, and I know you, as the city manager, have a overall budget that you have to propose here soon. So we're open to whatever you need to do.
All right, well, the motion's been made to table. Again, I just got this information, and I would have liked to have looked over it. I tried to get it last week, but I couldn't get a hold of it till after Friday, so it came this afternoon. I'll second that motion to table it, so.
Can I ask a quick question? When do you have to have this budget approved by?
Well, we're supposedly this month, but that's up to the city manager, I think, or the council, I guess.
I'm pretty sure I'll defer to you.
Well, I read the contract, the agreement between the city and the Chamber of Commerce, and it said all they had to do was present it by August 1st, along, I might add, with the program of work, which I didn't see. And so that kind of adds a little bit to the incompleteness of, I believe, what we're supposed to be presented, so.
All right, any other discussion on the council? All right, we got a motion and a second to table this budget. All in favor of tabling it, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, it's been tabled for one more meeting. I've got all that information. I can send this to y'all, or we can get it from then. Y'all, I'll forward it on to all the rest of the council members.
Thank you.
And next item is number 19, discuss and act on the Paris Economic Development Corporation's fiscal year 2017-18 budget. Mr. Paris.
I'll try to make it as quick as possible. Ms. Knox asked for an itemized sheet. I have those. I'm going to hand those out to you right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
And I did bring extra copies for the public, if the public would like to see one as well. The budget that we submitted to you, if you don't mind, I'll put my glasses on. The budget that we submitted to you was our original budget last year, and then you received the itemized budget, the revised budget, and then the budget for 2017, 2018, and of course, you see the changes that were made in that. The one I just submitted to you is an itemized budget. Ms. Knox asked for some explanations on each of the line items. And so if you could allow me just patience, I'll be glad to go through those. If you'd like to stop me at any time, feel free to do so. But one of the questions that Ms. Knox had asked was the increase in salaries, how many employees did we have and such. We have 3 employees, the executive director, myself. We have an economic development associate. That person transferred from a temporary position to a full-time position during this past year, and so that's the reason you have that change in flexibility with that budget amount. And then I have an administrative assistant, Paula Brownfield. That's the 3 people that are in the office, and that's including me. Ms. Brownfield, I did bring job descriptions, Ms. Knox, if you'd like to see them, but Ms. Brownfield handles administrative assistant duties, the bookkeeping and such. My economic development associate helps me with the RFPs that come in from the state or developing the marketing strategy and such and following through with that. My economic development associate helps me with that information. A lot of times I'm visiting with prospects and visiting with clients, and he's been very helpful in getting the research that I need when we're putting together those proposals for the RFIs that come in from the state. And so you see the salaries and wages and how they've adjusted because of moving those folks from temporary to full-time positions. If you look at the retirement, that is specifically for the executive director that's set aside and directed towards a retirement plan each and every month. Insurance benefits, yes, ma'am.
What kind of retirement plan do you have? Is it
My
like
retirement
401k or
specialist,
something?
I'm sorry, it's from another community, and it goes directly into my 401k activity
Okay.
and things of
All right,
that nature.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. The other 2 staff members do not receive retirement.
Okay.
So that was not part of their agreement with us. Insurance benefits, this past year, we incorporated the insurance of health, dental, and vision from the Texas Municipal League. And so we incorporated that. That took place around March of this past year. So Ms. Knox, that transition there is not a full year of the past budget, but we budgeted for a full year during this next budget for the Texas Municipal League. And then if you look at the, of course, Walker's Comp, you see that we use the calculation that they provide. So that transition from 204,676 to 224, no staff member received a raise, not including myself. So keep in mind that this transition in the budget is specifically from temp to full-time status, not because of increase in wages.
So that's why there's the slight increase in salaries and wages and a lot of increase in
Yes, ma'am.
retirement. And that was what the question was. Why was
Yes,
there that
ma'am.
much? Okay, great.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. If you look at the administration, and if you don't, let me go down a quick rabbit trail. If you notice, we have personnel, administration, we have marketing and promotion, we have job training, we have direct business incentives. That is the way the 501 code helps us structure that, the 501 being the 4A type code. So that's the reason this is broken up this way. Anyway, administration, you see the office supplies, we actually decreased down to 4,700. We have function 4, basically we buy toilet paper and other paper materials for the bathrooms. We help supply the bathrooms and the paper supplies, not only for us, but also for the museum next door. And so those are incorporated a little bit within those expenses. The postage, we actually decreased. We use just stamps and we use Federal Express. I only use Federal Express when I have a prospect or a client who needs an incentive agreement processed quickly, or if we need to transfer some information back and forth in an expedient manner. Telephone communications, that is Suddenlink, that is our landline, and then the executive director's cell phone reimbursement. That averages, Ms. Knox, to about $136, $138 a month for the cell phone reimbursement. And then on the car allowance, the executive director receives a car allowance, and that would be $700 a month. Insurance and bonds, we have liability insurance on the properties that we possess in case something happens on that property, and that is purchased through Pearson and Finley, and we have estimated that it's going to remain the same, about $2,500. Moving expenses. There was moving expenses set aside when I came on board, but obviously we don't budget for that. You're not looking for anybody new today. I hope not. But anyway, that is there, and we keep it there just in case you need to supply it at a different time. Travel expenses. When the admin assistant or the associate travel around the town and they're getting checks signed and things of that nature, we reimburse the mileage. They used to get an allowance, and I asked the board to change that. We only reimburse the federal rate for mileage when they commute in the town and getting check signs and such. And so they're getting, what, 50-something cents?
So they're reimbursed by the mile, but you actually get $700 a month every month, regardless of how much you drive, right?
Yeah, they wanted to do that because I could go well over that traveling into the community and such. But that was part of my contract.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Let's see, utilities. We kept that around $12,000. That is the City of Paris Water, Atmos Energy, and Cero Energy. Cero Energy is the electricity for the business park and the activity at that business park. But with the City of Paris, the water and Atmos Energy, that's for the depot facility. The depot, we're right across the street from the Coca-Cola plant. Our water rates are just high. I don't know why. We've been trying to figure that out. We do have green grass, but for some reason they're high, and I think part of it's the bathroom usage in the depot, because we have not only the museum, but we also have the other facility right down across from us. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Can I ask a question right there?
Yes.
And I'm not, excuse me,
Uh-huh.
I'm not trying to be whatever, but is there a reason why PEDC is paying for all of that?
I don't know. I've looked for contracts, and we have found some evidence of some discussions with the PEDC board and also the City of Paris at one time, a long time ago. But we have not found a contract as to what we're really supposed to supply and such. And honestly, Ms. Drake, I think it was a bit of a gentleman's agreement, just because.
And that's fine.
It's a historical
Right.
Location, and it's convenient to have, because the chamber used to be there at one time as well, but it's just convenient that some of those expenses are set aside. I'm sorry?
Well, just the short answer to that is we've got two nonprofits in there
Right.
that don't pay rent at all.
Right.
They don't pay rent either, so they pay maintenance and operating costs.
It's all
in-
tax money regardless if it
Yeah,
comes
and they're
out of the
basically paying
city or
this
the PEDC.
in lieu of rent.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is why they collect, they pay
Okay.
rent.
I just wanted clarification.
All right,
Thank you.
and miscellaneous, usually petty cash. We bought some awards. We have an Industry of the Year that we're getting ready to announce with the Chamber of Commerce, and those are some plaques that we buy and such. But we decreased that down to 500. We didn't use all of that. Association memberships, basically it's our membership to the Texas Economic Development Council. Through TEDC, we are part of Team Texas, which we leverage our marketing efforts, and I'll go into that here in just a moment. But basically, that is our professional membership. We're not in a national membership like IEDC or IAMC, but just a local state entity. And we felt like that with all the baggage that the PEDC had in the past, that the first step in being involved with an association would be our local state organization and leveraging what marketing dollars we could with our local state organization. The Texas Economic Development Council, if you recall, is a membership organization. It's economic development entities throughout the state, and even ED functions within a city. They participate in that membership organization. The state of Texas, the governor's office, has their own organization. That is quite expensive. Staff training. We set aside some training just last year. I had my administrative assistant take some training with Microsoft Access. So the names that we get on the marketing trips, she is now able to put that in Microsoft Access. So she has to get some good training with that. But we went ahead and decreased that as well. Ms. Knox, one of your specific questions was depot operations and what exactly that includes. The depot operations are J.C. Darnell Computer Services. He handles the computer equipment that we have in our office, and anytime our systems go down, he's called upon immediately, and he does arrive immediately. And a lot of times, we even see that he's able to dial in, so to speak, and fix our systems that way. We have RWCS Janitorial. When I first came here, we had a janitorial group in the depot operations.
that came, I think, about once a month, and we were paying twice as much as we're paying now. So we immediately went back, and our contracts had expired. So we went back, got the contracts, we eliminated our costs significantly, and they come in every week now, and we do a deep clean once a month into the windows and stuff. So it looks like I wanted a space where prospects would come, they have a really nice facility they can walk into, and so janitorial services helped us with that. Forest signs, in the past, we used them for the signage out at the business park and also the signage on the depot. Every once in a while, when we did our Build a Suit sign for that old Oliver Rubber plant, Forest helped us with that as well. Kelly Electrical, A1 Bug Busters, Paris News, Advanced Alarm, Commercial Air, E-File Cabinet. Ms. Knox, you may not be aware, but all of our files that we have in our office are now electronic. And we have a search mechanism, so if anybody in the community has a request for information, we can get that stuff immediately through a search mechanism because all those PDFs are in the cloud system with the e-file. The board chose a couple years ago to pursue that, not only to help with requests for information, but also to keep those files intact, and so they wouldn't be in a file cabinet somewhere and be lost. So that was one thing that they did with that. That is a reoccurring expense. Petty cash, Swaim Hardware, Supply Works, A1 Lock and Key, Paris Fire Extinguisher, and of course Capital One expenses that go along with that.
I have a question real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
What does the Paris News have to do with depot operations?
We buy subscription to Paris News, keep up with events.
Perfect, thank you.
And
I got you, thank you.
yes, ma'am. Let's see here. We also have obviously contract labor has been zero out. Contract services, legal fees, we upped that to $5,000. We visited an executive session last meeting, and we talked about some of the inherent conflict of interest with the city council taking the PEDC to a vote, that there may be on occasion some conflict of interest. We looked at our bylaws, we made sure that we were following the rules, and so the board decided specifically, the vote was 5-0, that we would use somebody, an attorney, on an as needed basis. And so if Stephanie informs us that there's a conflict of interest, we're able to find somebody to help us with that.
Mr. Paris, I have a real problem with that. I don't think that the PEDC should be hiring an outside lawyer without consulting with the council first. I have no problem with you bringing it to us and stating this is what we need a lawyer for, and then we will look at that at that point. But we do have a city attorney, and you need to convince us that there's an issue with it, and I'd like to zero that out. And also, do you have $3,000 in last year's budget? Has that been spent?
None of it has
Okay,
been spent.
I'd like for that not to be spent as well on contract labor for lawyers until you brought it to us specifically and requested.
I checked the bylaws and made sure I was following all the rules.
I'm sure
with
you
that.
can do it, but I'm stating I'd like to amend your budget to zero that out, and I'd also like to amend last year's budget to zero that out because I don't think that's appropriate. And I'd like to see, I don't have any problem with you spending the money, but I think the council should be consulted regarding that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, we can zero that line item out for the 17-18 budget, but we have to come back for a budget amendment if he wants to zero out to $3,000 for last year's budget, or should I say the current budget?
Well, if you're going to actually zero out the budget, yes, you need to do a budget amendment.
You want to do it? We can do it tonight. If it's not on the agenda.
Oh.
No, you would need to do that.
You need to do that in
Same
another
time we
meeting.
do our annual budget amendment.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're doing it accordingly.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I speak for the whole council, but does the council feel that way or not? I'm seeing several nods and a shake.
So,
Because we're not, I believe, if I'm understanding you right, if there is
there's
a need, okay,
An
you
inherent-
decide something comes up there, you think there's a need, and Ms. Harris believes she has a conflict of interest, then they would have to come back to us and say, she thinks she has a conflict of interest for this. We need to amend our budget for.
Or we just approve it? I mean,
Yeah,
we
just
could
approve, that's what I'm
yeah.
saying, of $200,000 to pay for this attorney, and we ask that you amend the
So,
budget.
Mayor, do we need to have on the agenda for next meeting a discussion as to what is an inherent conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, that's a legal question, and I don't know that we can solve a legal question. It's simply, sometimes people think there's a conflict, and there is, and sometimes there isn't. But I don't see that us discussing that would change anything.
According to the bylaws, the city attorney can help us make that judgment as to what the inherent conflict of interest is, or what a conflict of interest would be. According to the bylaws, she or he helps us make that
And I believe you could
interpretation.
bring that and make that case to us. If it were something appropriate for executive, we could discuss it in executive. If not, we'd do it in open session.
Yeah.
But I still think on a case-by-case basis, we would need we'd need an explanation of that. And because years past, there were some allegations of I have a conflict of interest, which clearly didn't exist. And so I think bring it to us, discuss it with us, make the case, and we'll talk about it.
So to follow up with what you just said, we're going to eliminate the $5,000 and make that zero. But for last year's $3,000, which we have another month left, then we come to you, and if we have a conflict of interest within the next 30 days, we can talk to you about that in executive session.
I would appreciate that. If that's all right, then we don't have to make a budget amendment on it.
That's all the reason we're going through this line item. So.
Okay, continue.
All right, so legal fees, but anyway, industrial park maintenance, you see around $10,000. We decreased that from $14,000. There's expenses related to maintenance of the industrial park, build-to-suit site, mainly mowing. It's amazing how crazy and vigorous that weeds are out there. But anyway, auditing services, the city does an audit. Our portion of that audit, the city bills us for our portion, the PEDC's portion of that audit, city audit, and that has been averaging around $8,000 a year. We see an increase of that about $8,300. And then machinery, tools, and equipment. We have the folks who handle our copier tell us that the parts on that copier are becoming obsolete. And so we worked with Tim Hernandez, my new treasurer secretary, and we estimated around $13,000 for a new copier, the one that's sufficient for us. Last year, I don't know if you knew this or not, but we purchased a new phone system. It was really antiquated, and we got a new phone system in place that helps us with our night calls as well. So you see a bit of an increase there, but even when you compare the revised budget in administration to the budget that we're proposing, you're seeing a decrease there as well. Marketing and promotion. We have secure jobs retention, business retention expansion. This is the emergency fund for hosting C-level executives of our local plants. Includes emergency travel for PEDC board members and city council members. So if you have a plant who is starting to hear rumors that they may be closing up or something very important, or maybe a new project coming down the pike, if there's an opportunity where the mayor and maybe the chairman of the PEDC go and make a trip and shake some hands and tell them we appreciate them being in Paris and what can we do to fix this situation, those funds has always, as I understand, been always set aside for that activity. And that stays at $5,000. Lamar County Days, we zeroed that out. There's no legislative session, but Ms. Knox, I did try to answer your question on that activity that took place this past year. We knew going into Lamar County Days that there was confusion, misinformation, and also probably some expenses that people were debating whether it should have been spent or not during Lamar County Days. And so we made sure that this next cycle, when the board passes, they gave me direction to make sure these expenses were spent on something that was appropriate and can be constituted as promotional expenses. And so I tried to itemize for you in that block to make sure that you understood what those expenses were driven towards. The only hotel stay was for myself and my board member, Derek Hughes, who went with me. And I believe we stayed 2 nights each, and so you see that expense there as well. Marketing, airport, industrial site. The reason that this is in here and separate from marketing is because the board, and I believe it was Ms. Clifford, when she was chairman, had wanted to set aside $10,000 with the airport board to do some specific marketing for the airport, especially industrial type development. A year later, I believe it was passed, And even though it's passed, the direction that I had received is that we want to collaborate with the airport board to make sure we're focused on some marketing effort. And we really came up with some good ideas, but we really haven't put a plan together. And I think that with the previous mayor asking me to do some work on the airport and finally coming up with that information, we can start to see now how we want to market that airport. But that money has not been spent. And since the board did approve it through resolution, money needs to stay there. At least that's my understanding, that money needs to stay there. But it has not been spent and is not a recurring expense.
Gotcha.
The industrial attraction video, that's another situation where the board set aside $10,000 for a video. That is not a recurring expense. It's a one-time expense, but it has not been spent yet. Working with the chamber, the VCC, I believe is what it's called, and also the city to make sure we come up with one theme, because you don't want to have a video of industrial development that says one thing and then Lamar County Chamber is saying something else and the city is saying something else, and it'd be nice to have a solidified theme that everybody can follow and we're all saying the same message. And sometimes that takes a big collaboration of making sure we know what we want to highlight as a community. So it has not been spent, and it's not a recurring expense. Marketing and promotion.
Can I just
Yes,
ask
ma'am.
Do you sort of know where we're at on that as far as timeline? Or
Ken Higdon and I have talked about it quite a bit, and we want to hire a person to come in and help us organize that. We've also met with John Godwin, and what we want to do is a strategic plan, but those have been preliminary. I mean, we really need a theme, and maybe it is the Eiffel Tower and the way it used to be, but maybe it's something else that invigorates. You know, what we try to promote is let's build Paris, you know. I mean, we do something that's action-oriented, and we want to continue doing that. Honestly, Mr. Drake, it's just going to take some more work and time to put that meeting together and continue working.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. $75,000 for marketing promotion. You see here where I start to highlight that we're members of TEDC. We leverage our marketing through Team Texas. Team Texas is pretty much made up of rural, and I don't want to call us rural, but communities under 100,000 that like to combine efforts. So, for example, I went to Select USA in Washington, D.C. Select USA is run by the federal government, by the U.S. Department of Commerce. And you have all this foreign direct investment that comes in from outside into the United States, and they're looking for places to invest their money. And so we worked, I believe, with about 20 other EDCs in the state, and we participated in one booth. So we all shared the cost of that booth, and we ran in shifts in covering that booth, but we also broke the floor out into little territories and went out and marketing ourselves as well. When those names were accumulated, we all shared those names together. So yeah, you got 20 people fighting over a prospect, but it was a great way for us to get out there and market Paris, Texas, and talk about Paris, Texas. And I can honestly tell you right now, I have a prospect that's coming in October that came from that event. So I'm really excited about that.
Mr. Paris, I have a question about the marketing. I appreciate all the information in this, by the way. It's very good. In years past, the PEDC has spent quite a bit of money marketing Paris inside Paris media, which I thought was a bad idea to begin with. Is any of this marketing money planned on being spent in Paris media?
Not Paris media, because one of the criticisms that the board gave me was that they did not want to there was disagreement on my board, but they did not want to buy ads in the local newspapers.
To me, that's just a waste of money. I'd just like to stipulate that the understanding is that this will be spent, say, outside of a 50-mile radius to do what it's supposed to do, to market us to the state, to the country, to whatever. Rather than spending full-page ads and say, something local.
One of the interesting things is that we've created an email blast for our list. Then we come back like from Select USA and we have that list. We have an email blast that goes out to that list. Interestingly, we have local folks that have been tapping into that and receiving that email as well. But that is designed, and the way we focus it is to highlight our resources and our assets as a community to those prospects. Not only the prospects, but the site sector consultants and also commercial real estate brokers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So that is what you see there, at least the things that I highlighted, is up until the end of 2017. Obviously, 2018, once we receive the Team Texas itinerary, we'll have other events and functions that we take place in the spring as well. So even in marketing and promotion, you see a decrease of about $7,000 in that activity as well. So total operating expenses actually decreased about $1,000, but pretty much stays the same. So now we're at job training. You have the ACT work keys through Campbell Soup and Kimberly-Clark. That money was set aside with Paris Junior College so that when you had high school, local area high school students taking the ACT work keys, we know ACT from college activity, but the work keys is the workforce component of ACT. And it assesses critical thinking skills, reading, and mathematics. So it has, I believe, 3 different levels. You have bronze, you have silver, and you have gold. And so if you have, let's say, a high school student take it and they receive a bronze certificate, okay, and Campbell Soup has an opening in which a bronze certificate would work, then that person has a little more access to apply for that position. But let's say Campbell Soup, when it has a management position and it needs a gold certificate, but now ACT provides the learning situation where the person can upskill themselves to a gold. And that was the whole purpose of Work Keys and its function, so that Campbell and Kimberly could receive people that they know where they were with their critical thinking. It's a little bit more standardized all the way across the board, no matter what high school, no matter what state they come from. Very similar to an ACT or SAT as well.
Okay, can I ask why
Yes.
that was dropped $9,000?
In the last 2 years precedent, or should I say the what's been happening in the last few years is that not that many people are taking it.
Okay.
And as you know, the way we're structured as a type A, we really can't do much in promotional expenses locally to help with that. So it would have to be up to the schools or PJC, but we still want to pay for the test. The test is around $26. $1,000 is still, and if I need more, I'll come and we'll talk about it, and you never know. I mean, I may have a ton of interest, right? So anyway, marketing and promotion, we're going to keep it 75. So anyway, job training, bodyguard training incentive. Ms. Knox, bodyguard, they're in their final year. They met compliance. We have actually had them come here, and you probably saw some stuff in the paper, but they are in their final month of this incentive agreement, and they did not use all of the money, and it's remaining around $13,000. I think they're going to use maybe another $1,000 or $2,000 before the budget ends, because they sent some folks to some training, and the board wanted to make sure that they knew they could use it for some training as well. But so that will be zeroed out for this next budget cycle. Results training incentive. I believe it was about 2 or 3 years ago, the board had set aside $50,000 for results when it first came here for training expenses. And unfortunately, when I got here, they hadn't completed an incentive agreement. And oddly enough, we've still been working on an incentive agreement. It is now in their hands. They have my FedEx number, and we're just waiting for a signature. At the time, we did not put a deadline on it because that money's been set aside. So I'm hoping within the next 2 or 3 weeks to have that incentive agreement in place. In regards to direct business incentives, Paris Street project, that was the Park Street project. Park Street was a street right next to Potter's and Acus Energies. The truck traffic was just horrendous on it. It was breaking up. And so we did a partnership with the city to where we fixed the base of that street, put a concrete reinforcement in it, tilled it up, and then the city came along and did chip seal on top of it. So it was a combined effort in fixing that street for their truck traffic. And I don't know if you recall, but Potter's has built a building on the other side of that street, and they're using it for distribution. So that is zeroed out. Paris Lakes, you asked about that. That is not a recurring expense. Paris Lakes was to help with infrastructure once a certain amount of construction had been done. They have not done the construction to receive that $250,000 towards infrastructure. So that money had to stay there because it's part of their incentive. They had 5 years to complete it. They're in their last year. June 1st of 2018 is when that ends. So if they can show us compliance, and they can show us that they've done what they said they were going to do, then we can afford them whatever reimbursement up to $250 that we can. But right now, they haven't done as such.
And if they don't, then we don't.
We don't play.
Have we spent any money already on the sewer?
No,
in
sir.
there? So nothing's been
No.
spent yet? Okay.
Chairman Clifford, PEDC Chairman Ms. Clifford had signed that contract. It did not have a NAICS codes associated with it, and somebody could debate whether that was really official or not through the NAICS codes of industrial development. But I believe everything I've read so far, it seems to be legitimate.
Is this the building that's going on the south, let's see.
Southwest, southeast,
southeast
outside the loop,
loop?
southeast.
It's gonna have the, upscale hospital, upscale shopping center, and all of that?
I don't know that last part, but I do know it is that construction out there on the southeast end of the loop.
Yeah,
I
when
think
when
that-
that first, the plans
It
first
was
came
gonna
out.
build, they were gonna build a hospital, and it was gonna be
I
designer
understand the
hospital
plans have
and all
changed
that.
maybe 3 times since that time
Uh-huh.
that was
I've never
first
seen anything
instigated.
since
So
But the
original.
incentive hasn't changed.
the incentive hasn't changed. Because it was just specific to the construction.
Okay,
And the roads, it was specific to the roads that were to be built out there with curbs.
okay.
Yep. So, and if you'd like to have the incentive agreement, please come by the office. I'll be glad to show it to you and let you look it over if you have any questions on it. We also have, let's see, President Bodyguard. The last, I think it was 2 PEDC meetings ago, Bodyguard, their compliance was that they had to create 15 FTEs. They created 23, and those 23 have been working full-time for a year. So it's not like we're prepaying anything. So in that context, the board decided that we would offer $5,000 a job, them exceeding their compliance.
Is that an incentive, or what is that?
It's an incentive because they wanted more in the beginning.
Can a type A EDC make an incentive to create a job that already exists? I'm just wondering.
They wanted to, when they first created.
That was the question. Can they or can they not? Can a type A EDC create an incentive to reward a company for creating a job that already exists? That's my
Yes.
question. They
Yes.
can't, is that correct?
Well, it was put in the contract that they could come back before the end of the term and
Okay.
ask for that additional.
Okay, I just want to make
So
sure
It was
that
plugged
this
into
is,
that at the very beginning of the agreement.
okay, great, fantastic,
They
thank you.
wanted more originally, but they got 15, and so they came back and asked for those other 5.
Okay.
And then we're hoping that after that, they want to come back and see what new development they want to do and see if they can receive incentives on that. But I told them that this needed to be clean, needed to be done with on our incentive agreement before we looked at any other future growth activity that they have out there. Potter's Industries, we have $8,000 left on their current agreement. We paid 16 last year because a payment was skipped the year previous, and so we paid that $16,000 to meet our obligation to their compliance, but we have 1 payment left towards Potter's Industries. Powder Innovations, we receive, as I understand, the board set aside land for Potter's Industries if they were to grow past the current building that they have. They did not, and that land reverted back to us. And there were taxes that were due on that land. We paid that $1,200 in taxes, and that's a zero sum there. Daisy Dairy. Daisy Dairy had instigated incentives where they would pay $1.20 per million gallons a day, or something of that nature, but it's a $1.20 rate. And any rate that they would have in years after that was over $1.20, so let's say $1.22, we would reimburse that difference. And we would do that reimbursement on year 6. So years 1 through 5, 0 through 5, they would not receive any difference. And then on starting year 6, they would receive a difference. Well, I can tell you now, by our obligation, we have to set aside that $94,000, but evidence is showing us that they were probably 2 people off their 110 number, so they're 108. But the reality is that they were supposed to use 1 million gallons a day. They're using around 560,000 gallons a day now, so they're not really meeting the $1 million threshold. And at the same time, their rate is probably equivalent to around $1.11. So the difference that would exist doesn't seem to exist, and we're in the final stage of making sure that compliance is complete and be working with Stephanie on that. Debt service, the PEC bond, 1998 Paris Packaging. We're in our final year of that payment. That's $354,000, $354,926, and the bond fees are $750.
How much money are you setting aside for the $4.7 million remaining on the loan guarantee, if that were?
I don't think EDC has ever set aside money for that. It's just part of
So
the.
if that loan is ever,
It's part of future cash flows, as I understand.
so if that loan is ever, surely it wouldn't be, but if that loan were ever defaulted on, you would have $4.7 million that you'd have to pay, is that correct? That you don't have?
Of future cash flows. Not immediately, but future cash flows.
And that's the thing that's causing the PEDC to be quite a bit in the hole and having promised future money for the next 2 years, right?
PEDCs, Chapter 380s, Type Bs, however you want to call it, all use incentives based on future cash flows. So even if you had a bond, just like what we have right here.
We did just get a legal opinion that entire deal may not be valid at all. I don't know if you've read it, but it was sent. That's we got an expert opinion from a lawyer on economic development.
The practitioners that I talked to and the lawyers that I talked to say that it is legal, but unfortunately, it's probably not the smartest thing to do.
Okay.
Yep.
But so there's no, you're not, so you're promising future money on that should it come payable?
Future cash flows based on future income that was anticipated with the PEDC.
Okay.
And then, so from that point, Ms. Knox, you see that our total budget expenses, $298,384, and then $1 million that were proposals, $1,206,676. You can see we've decreased our budget from what we had from last year, and we estimate that this next year you're looking at income around $1.4 million of income for this next year. Any questions that you have?
What do you do with your surplus?
According to our bylaws, our surplus goes back into the general fund and is put into there are two mechanisms, and I have this in my audit as well, if you'd like to look at it, but there are two mechanisms that hold our reserve cash and create a very, very minute amount of interest. But they are kept there because they're easy to liquidate in case we need to liquidate it.
So they're just saved somewhere?
We say, so it's not you use it or lose it. It goes back into reserves.
I got you.
Yes, ma'am. And I have that in my bylaws, if I can show that to you sometime in the future as well.
Well, I really appreciate this. This is great.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This is
It's
a
much more
very
helpful
nice
than-
presentation.
Much more
It's
detailed.
exactly what I
I think that's what
asked
you're
for.
wanting from the VCC as well.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Could you give Ken a copy of that?
Well, this has been discussed with the board, and so what I'm walking away with today is that the line item for legal fees, we need to zero out. For $5,000, zero that out. But is there any other changes that are recommended?
Other than making sure the marketing and promotion isn't spent within a 50-mile radius, because that just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've talked about that before.
All right.
Any other questions?
Presentation.
Ms. Lancaster?
You
All right,
guys
thank
have
you,
any
guys. I
questions?
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do we need to accept the budget or not? Want to make a motion?
Can we go ahead and accept it with those changes?
Yeah. Okay, do you want to make, I'll make a motion to accept the budget with the changes that we stipulated.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, all are in favor? Okay.
Yep, all in favor. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Paris, appreciate it.
you.
All right, I lost my place here. Item number 20, discuss the 2017-2018 budget for the City of Paris and act on a resolution calling a public hearing on the city manager's proposed budget for fiscal year 2017-2018.
I don't have anything new to present. If you have any questions or concerns, certainly let me know now or between now and the next meeting. Specifically, your action item for tonight is to call a special meeting for next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, September the 5th at 5:30 p.m. At City Hall for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the proposed 2017-2018 budget.
All right, any discussion on this item? I will make that motion that John just described. Make a motion to call for a public hearings on the budget and tax rates on September 5th and 11th. Okay.
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next, item number 21, discuss and act on a resolution calling two public hearings. Didn't we just do this on the
Tax rate, so.
tax rate? Okay.
Correct.
On the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2017, 2018, if needed.
This requires two public hearings instead of one. We'll also have the tax rate hearing next Tuesday as well, the same time. And then we'll have the second tax rate hearing on September the 11th, which is just your regular first meeting of September, also at 5:30 PM at City Hall, council chambers. Please keep in mind that the tax rate is proposed to be increased by 5 cents. That was the amount that was approved by voters in May for the bond election.
Do we need to act on this?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we have, what he said, the tax rate hearing on September the 5th and the 11th.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. And item number 22, convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code. 1, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations. Or 2, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by subdivision 1 as follows: Kimberly Clark Corporation and JS Baking LLC. So it is now 7:34, and we are going into executive session. Okay, it is now 8:18, and we are now out of executive session. We discussed economic development projects in executive session, and no action will be necessary. Finally, we are looking at item number 24, future events for the city council. Anybody have any future events they wish to discuss?
You know, we had talked earlier about having some kind of long-range planning meeting so that we can get a vision or, well, for
the council and for the city.
You know, I had wanted to think about some ways that we could integrate projects maybe throughout the city, and I think you had some thoughts.
Team building, I think would be good.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, you know, and that's well and good, but I was kind of thinking about, I don't know.
We did discuss it one night up here.
Right, we did, and
Direction.
I don't know, maybe I should put some more thought into it. Should I put some thought into it and send it to you and to Mr. Godwin?
Sure.
And-
Yeah, and two things we talked about doing, and don't want to talk about this too much because it's not really an agenda item. We talked about having a work session on the code enforcement, and there's 2 dates in October. I don't remember what they are, but I'll get those to you in the next couple of weeks so you can see if you're available to one of those dates. And then the second one is just what y'all are talking about, and we talked about doing that also in October, early November. So I've got some dates on both of those, and I'll send those out, and let me know who's in town and when. And
What's that code enforcement about?
That's about just kind of going through the whole code enforcement process, how it works, what we need to do differently, if anything, or what we can do differently, if anything, that
Okay.
sort of thing. So I think it was like the 11th and the 14th of October, but anyway.
Would that anyhow and coincide with perhaps something to do with the elimination of the tearing down of historic properties?
It sure can.
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
and
sure
working
can.
with taxes.
Sure.
And people who don't probate wills because they can't afford to pay the back taxes and the house falls down and then we end up with an
City
empty
winds up
lot.
picking
Sure, we can prepare an agenda, or we will prepare an agenda,
Uh-huh.
otherwise we'll just sit around and talk. We'll have an agenda for that, what
Okay.
topics we're gonna address, so just whatever you wanna add to it. we
All
will
right,
certainly
thank
do so.
you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anything else?
Motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. We're adjourned.
I'm in favor.